I just thought I'd just quickly just talk about something relative to this Christianarchy theme, and that is Jesus. And, you know, who he is and why he's important, and if you know him, and do you believe in him, and why it's really important that you do, and if you don't, maybe you might consider it. But John 3:16 says, God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son. There's a few ways to think about that, but first of all, we notice that it says, God so loved the world. You're in the world, I'm in the world, that means he loved us. And everybody else on it, on this globe that's been on it, if it's a globe, that have been on this planet ever since Adam and Eve came. God so loved this world that he gave. And that's the interesting thing, is that within Christianity, that's a really important concept of giving. And we see that the whole faith started off with God giving. He gave the light, he gave the darkness light, he gave the earth without form. He gave us animals, he gave Adam and Eve, he gave life, and now he's giving his only begotten Son. And what does that word begotten mean? Well, it means human, that God had a human son. Begotten, it's just another way of saying conceived. It's a human son. He had a human son. And now there's all kinds of talk about what that meant, and if it was a second person of the Trinity, human son that existed forever with his Father, or if it was a man born in Nazareth that was filled with God's Spirit, who overcame sin and death because he followed his Father perfectly. There's all that talk about it. We won't go into that tonight. We've talked about some of that before. But the idea is that in that period of time, God, he brought forth his only human son, born of a woman, born under the law, and that son came forward and he lived a life that was without sin. And that he did that because he loved his Father and because he loved us. And so he walks around in his life, and there's interesting things about him. We don't know very much about his childhood. We know that when he was 12, he went to the temple, as a young boy was supposed to, and he was able to sit and carry on conversation with the scholars in the temple. They were amazed at what he was able to know as he talked with them. We know that he learned obedience through the things that he suffered. So he didn't live a life of a king sitting on a throne and having himself pampered. He was the son of a carpenter. Joseph adopted him, and he probably learned to work with his hands, and he lived a regular life. And it also says he was tempted in everything. So, you know, if you have temptations, Jesus understands what they are. You like the opposite sex, you like the same sex, you like children. You know, I mean, this is scary stuff, but he was tempted in all things. That means his flesh was presented with every sort of temptation, but he didn't buy into it. Again, why? Because he had to? No, he didn't have to. He could have failed. He had free will. But he loved his Father so much, and he loved us so much, he said, I'm going to live it right. I'm not going to do anything wrong. I'm going to become the sacrificial lamb. And so then when he hits around 30 years of age, which was the law, the age that a Jew could enter into ministry, that he gets into his ministry full time, and he starts to reveal all the prophecies that were spoken of him in the Old Testament about his coming as the promised Messiah. And he did the miracles, and he raised the dead, and he walked on water. But the interesting thing I think about him today is, you know, if he came to your dorm, or if he was somebody who lived near you, you'd really like him, I think. I don't think you would have not liked him, unless you really love darkness and hate light. Because that's what it says. He was light that came into the world, and the darkness couldn't comprehend it. But if you really like someone who is friendly, I'm sure Jesus was friendly, who didn't judge you. He said, I didn't come to judge the world, I came to save it. And who just kind of lived his life, and he liked a good wine, and enough that they called him a wine bibber, and he liked to eat enough that they called him a glutton. And, you know, he was a pretty casual, good, all-around guy. Not pretty, he was the casual, great all-around guy, and he was a fantastic, ultimate, consummate teacher. And he was able to teach us and reveal the things of his Father who was invisible to us. And then when the time came, his own friends, his own brethren offered him up. Romans came in. He gave his life up. They came and killed him brutally, barbarically. Other people died barbarically. He died a barbaric death, but he also died for the sin that was placed upon him, which is really a difficult thing for us to comprehend. But he was innocent. He didn't deserve to die. He's the only human that didn't deserve to die, but he did. And 3 days later, he showed he was who he said he was. He overcame the grave, which no one has ever done before. People have come back to life after they're pronounced dead, but I don't think anybody has been dead as a doornail, no heart, no brain activity for 3 days in a grave and then came back. No, that has never happened, but he did, because the Father was saying, "This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased." And guess what? Having done that, all of us now will be resurrected. All of us will not go to the grave and never come up again. We will all have life after this, is what that means. So you think about him. The thing that really testifies about him most to me is the fact, not that we believe in a resurrection, not that we believe he was born of a virgin or that he didn't have sin. That's stuff you have to accept by faith. There isn't that much evidence except we read it and we believe it, and the Spirit tells us it's true. But the thing that really convinces me there is something about him that's worthy of allegiance and following and believing in and trusting in were those guys who followed him. That just blows my mind that he called these apostles, fishermen and tax collectors and all these different guys. One of them went south, Judas. He was replaced. Paul's called. And all of those men, not as a group, like a band of brothers who were fighting an enemy, they separately dispersed out into the world, and they gave their witness of him. They gave their witness of his resurrection. They gave their witness of his miracles. They gave their witness of his love. And all but one were brutally put to death for that witness. I get one charlatan tricking you, and I get a couple people maybe being psycho enough to go about it, but 12 men who had a lot they could live for, going out and suffering at the hands of the Romans and the Jews for their witness that Jesus resurrected and he was the Son of God. That speaks volumes to me. If you haven't given him a chance to be your Lord and Savior, perhaps tonight you go to God and you just say, "You so love the world, I'm on the world, I'm part of it. You gave us your only begotten Son. I don't know who he is. Will you tell me? Will you open my heart? Will you give me a new heart and help me know Jesus so I can be born again and have a relationship with you because of it?" Out.